In August 1945, as the Pacific War neared its climax, the United States launched a daring plan to end the conflict with Japan. This plan did not involve conventional military campaigns, but instead deployed a new weapon with unprecedented destructive power: the atomic bomb. In mere seconds, a blinding flash of light erupted, accompanied by heat rivaling the surface of the sun, unleashing catastrophic explosions. Shock waves and radiation swept across two cities, obliterating them and claiming tens of thousands of lives instantly. Yet the consequences of these blasts extended far beyond that moment. Today, we explore one of history's most controversial events: the United States' decision to drop atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, a decision that ended a war but sparked profound ethical questions. In 1941, following Japan's surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States transitioned from neutrality to active participation in World War II. As a leading economic and military power, the U.S. collaborated with Allied forces to counter the Axis alliance of Germany, Italy, and Japan. Japan suffered significant defeats in naval battles at Midway and Leyte, while enduring relentless air raids from the U.S. Air Force. By 1945, Japan's military was severely weakened. On the early morning of March 10, 1945, over 300 B-29 bombers dropped approximately 500,000 incendiary and napalm bombs on Tokyo, igniting a massive firestorm that killed around 100,000 people. In the following 3 months, from March to June 1945, the U.S. secured a decisive victory in the Battle of Okinawa, one of the bloodiest campaigns in the Pacific. Japan lost over 77,000 soldiers and a critical strategic stronghold, leaving their prospects of victory nearly extinguished. Meanwhile, in Europe, Germany surrendered unconditionally to the Allies in May 1945. In Asia, however, Japan remained resolute in continuing the fight. The samurai culture, emphasizing honor and sacrifice, drove the Japanese military to persist. Kamikaze suicide attacks inflicted significant losses on Allied forces, demonstrating Japan's determination to prolong the war. Japanese leaders believed that by extending the conflict, they could negotiate more favorable peace terms with the United States. Yet, the United States had developed a weapon with unimaginable power: the atomic bomb. To understand this weapon, we must turn to the Manhattan Project, a top-secret research program costing billions of dollars. In late 1938, German scientists discovered that bombarding uranium atoms could release immense energy. This breakthrough laid the foundation for a new type of bomb with unparalleled destructive potential. Renowned physicist Albert Einstein sent a letter to President Franklin Roosevelt, warning that Germany might harness this technology to develop nuclear weapons. Einstein's letter spurred the U.S. into action. On September 17, 1942, the Manhattan Project was officially launched. Led by physicist Robert Oppenheimer, often called the father of the atomic bomb, the project mobilized 130,000 personnel, including top scientists from around the world, with a budget of $2 billion. Headquartered at the Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico, the project operated under strict secrecy. 2 types of atomic bombs were developed, one using uranium and the other using plutonium. After 3 years of research, the scientists successfully created a nuclear device they believed would work. On July 16, 1945, the first atomic bomb, code-named Gadget, was transported to the Jornada del Muerto Desert, 35 miles from Socorro, New Mexico, for testing. The explosion, known as the Trinity test, produced a yield equivalent to 20,000 tons of TNT, generating a brilliant fireball and a mushroom cloud rising 7.5 miles into the sky. The results exceeded expectations, marking a turning point in scientific and military history. However, this achievement also raised ethical dilemmas that Oppenheimer and his colleagues would later grapple with. Less than a month later, the U.S. decided to use atomic bombs to force Japan's surrender. In July 1945, President Harry Truman issued the Potsdam Declaration, warning Japan that failure to surrender would lead to prompt and utter destruction. Japan, however, did not respond favorably. The Japanese military mobilized large forces for defense, while some political leaders hoped the Soviet Union could mediate a peace deal. This stance heightened tensions with the U.S. During World War II, the Soviet Union played a key role in defeating Germany, while the U.S. sought a clear victory in the Pacific to solidify its global standing. Prolonging the war could cost the U.S. up to 1 million additional soldiers, according to estimates. Another factor driving the decision to use atomic bombs was the 1941 Pearl Harbor attack, which inflicted heavy losses on the U.S. and became a strategic motivator to end the conflict swiftly. President Truman emphasized that, against a determined adversary, the U.S. needed to employ all necessary means to protect national interests. 4 Japanese cities were selected as potential targets: Kyoto, a hub of industry and culture; Hiroshima, a major military port with a large munitions depot; Yokohama, home to numerous military factories; and Kokura, a key weapons production center. Initially, Kyoto was the primary target due to its industrial and cultural significance. However, Secretary of War Henry Stimson, who had personal ties to Kyoto from his honeymoon, opposed its selection, leading to Kokura and Nagasaki being chosen as alternatives. On July 31, 1945, the first atomic bomb, code-named Little Boy, was completed and ready for deployment. The bombing was scheduled for August 1st, but was delayed to August 6th due to poor weather. Little Boy was a uranium-based bomb, measuring 9.8 feet in length, 28 inches in diameter, weighing 8,818 pounds, and containing 141 pounds of uranium-235. It was designed to detonate using a gun-type mechanism, where 2 uranium cores collide to trigger the explosion. At noon on August 5th, technicians at Tinian Island moved Little Boy from its storage facility. Pilots observed the bomb with curiosity and apprehension, as its steel casing and guiding tail fins were unlike any conventional weapon. After thorough checks, the bomb was sealed and transported to Northfield, a military base 1,491 miles from Japan. That afternoon, Little Boy was loaded into the B-29 bomber named Enola Gay. The mission involved 7 B-29s, 3 for weather observation, 1 to measure the blast, 1 to film, 1 as a backup, and the Enola Gay tasked with dropping the bomb. The crew was led by Colonel Paul Tibbets. At midnight, the pilots held a final briefing, with only a few aware of the mission's full scope. At 2:45 a.m. on August 6th, the Enola Gay took off. At 3 a.m., bomb expert William Sterling Parsons removed the safety plug from Little Boy, arming the weapon. With clear weather, and after consulting the Manhattan Project's command, Tibbets selected Hiroshima as the primary target. Hiroshima, with a population of about 245,000, was calm that early morning. At 7 a.m., Japanese radar detected U.S. reconnaissance planes, but due to their small number, no fighter jets were deployed. Civilians accustomed to prior air raids did not seek shelter. Many 13-year-old students were participating in community activities in the city center, unaware of the impending catastrophe. At exactly 8:15 a.m., the Enola Gay, piloted by Colonel Paul Tibbets Jr. and Captain Robert Lewis, dropped Little Boy. After 44 seconds of free fall, the bomb detonated at an altitude of 1,804 feet, unleashing a force equivalent to 15,000 tons of TNT. Within a 1-mile radius, nearly everything was obliterated. The temperature at the blast's epicenter reached 7,232 degrees Fahrenheit, incinerating 90% of the city's buildings and killing 70,000 people instantly. Many victims vanished, leaving only their shadows burned into walls. Streets and vehicles melted, and clocks stopped at 8:15 a.m. Survivors endured severe burns and radiation exposure they were unaware of. In the days that followed, thousands succumbed to hair loss, bleeding, and other symptoms. In total, the Hiroshima bombing claimed over 140,000 lives, with the toll rising in subsequent years. 2 hours after the bombing, President Truman spoke from the USS Augusta. "We have harnessed the basic power of the universe. If Japan does not accept surrender, they will face consequences never seen before." In a press conference aboard the ship, Truman emphasized that the bombing was a strategic response to end the war swiftly, while sending a message to potential rivals, including the Soviet Union. On August 8, 1945, the U.S. dropped approximately 6 million leaflets over 47 Japanese cities, warning of the atomic bomb's power and urging citizens to press their government to surrender. That same day, the Soviet Union declared war on Japan, adding further pressure. However, Japanese leaders hesitated, commanding 5 million troops, 10,000 aircraft, many kamikaze, and enough fuel for 7 months. To force Japan's surrender, the U.S. decided to deploy a second atomic bomb, codenamed Fat Man. This bomb was 10.8 feet long, 59 inches in diameter, weighed 10,362 pounds, and used plutonium-239 with an implosion design, where explosives compressed the plutonium core to trigger a nuclear reaction. Scheduled for August 11th, the mission was moved to August 9th due to weather. Fat Man was stored in a climate-controlled facility on Tinian Island under strict security. On the evening of August 8th, it was loaded onto the B-29 Boxcar, commanded by Major Charles Sweeney and Lieutenant Colonel Frederick Ashworth. The primary target was Kokura, 106 miles from Hiroshima, home to a major weapons arsenal, with Nagasaki as the backup. The mission faced numerous challenges. The plutonium bomb's activation was more complex, and upon reaching Kokura, the city was obscured by clouds and smoke from a prior air raid. After 3 failed attempts to locate the target, the crew diverted to Nagasaki, burning significant fuel and facing Japanese anti-aircraft fire. Nagasaki, with a population of about 263,000, was a major military port and industrial hub, producing warships and weapons for Mitsubishi. The city sat in the Urakami Valley, surrounded by hills, about 1.86 miles from the main port. At 7:50 a.m., Japanese radar detected U.S. planes, but assuming they were reconnaissance, no defenses were deployed. Clouds covered Nagasaki, but at the last moment, Bombardier Captain Kermit Bayhand spotted a clear patch. At 11:01 a.m. on August 9th, Fat Man was dropped. After 43 seconds, it detonated at 1,640 feet, releasing energy equivalent to 21,000 tons of TNT. The epicenter reached 7,232 degrees Fahrenheit, with winds up to 621 miles per hour. The mushroom cloud rose 11.3 miles. Despite missing the target by 2 miles, the blast devastated 2/3 of the city. Approximately 40,000 people died instantly, and the Urakami Valley was obliterated. Survivors suffered severe burns, peeling skin, and radiation exposure. Of the 7,500 workers at Mitsubishi's munitions factory, 6,200 perished. Between 17,000 and 22,000 others in nearby factories also died. Lacking knowledge of radiation, doctors mistook vomiting and diarrhea for dysentery. Survivors wandered through the rubble, unknowingly exposed to deadly radiation. By 1946, about 80,000 people had died in Nagasaki, rising to 140,000 by 1950, largely due to leukemia and radiation-related illnesses. In total, the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki may have claimed over 400,000 lives. On August 15, 1945, Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's unconditional surrender, ending World War II. The U.S.'s use of atomic bombs achieved its goal of swiftly ending the conflict, but sparked enduring debates. Some view it as a war crime that ushered in a nuclear arms race. Others argue it saved millions of lives by averting a land invasion of Japan, which could have been even costlier. Japan's response to the bombings was complex. The population was engulfed in grief and loss, while the government faced internal and external pressures. Scientists like Oppenheimer, though proud of their scientific achievement, expressed regret over the humanitarian toll. These debates persist, reflecting the delicate balance between military strategy and human ethics. Amid this destruction, an inspiring story emerged. Sadako Sasaki, a 12-year-old girl who developed leukemia from radiation, folded 1,000 paper cranes in hopes of survival. Though she passed away in 1958, Sadako's story spread a message of peace worldwide. In 1958, a children's peace monument was dedicated in Hiroshima, inscribed with the words, "This is our cry, this is our prayer, peace in the world."